Hey everyone, I'm Jelster, and this is going to be my tutorial on the recently found collapse skip for Ocarina of Time. This is a trick you can do as Adult Link to skip most of the collapse sequence without doing a void warp. You can see the trick in action right now. I'm dropping the bomb on this frame and I'm jump slashing on this frame. So the bomb hits Link into the loading zone down here, and this is one of the last loading zones of the castle collapse sequence. So you save a lot of time by doing this. So before we move on, there's a really important thing you need to know. There's another trick called Void Warp that you see on the screen right now. That's much easier and faster than this. However, it's considered a wrong warp by definition. So it's actually banned in the categories you see on screen right now. No wrong warp, no IM wrong warp, no RBA wrong warp, or MST no wrong warp. And any other arbitrary category someone wants to make that bans wrong warping. So if you're not doing any of those categories, definitely go with Void Warp instead, because it's much easier and faster. So first things first, you're gonna get the angle that you're gonna HESS from. And there's two ways to do that. You either go to this fence and then turn left and you have the angle, or alternatively you can go to this wall over here and then turn right and you have the angle. I prefer the fence thing because it's faster and there's a lot less moving around. And when you move around, there's a chance of rocks hitting you, so I kind of want to avoid that. The angle you get from the wall is slightly different than the one you get from the fence, so I think it's possible that one of them works for you on your console and the other one doesn't, but I don't know. Just try them both out and see which one works. Also, something I should point out is that there's different ways to turn to the left or to the right. The first one is ESS turning, which is the slowest, but it's really consistent. The other one is shield turning. And if you're feeling bold, you can also just flick your stick to the left. So now I need to get a HESS. And there's three different things you need to get right to get a HESS. The first one's the distance between Link and the bomb before you roll. The second one is the frame you roll on. And the third one is the frame you hit Z and R on. So yeah, first let's cover the distance between Link and the bomb. And there's three different ways you can get this right. The first one is what I like to do. I pull out the bomb, shield drop it, roll and backflip, and then I have the perfect distance between Link and the bomb. Be sure to either hold shield from the backflip or shield flick when you're on the ground before you roll into the bomb, because otherwise you'll do a side roll, and that obviously won't allow you to get the HESS. If you see like a rock spawning right in front of you, there's an alternative setup you can do. You backflip, then you shield flick, and then you roll. Give you the exact same position as the other setup, but it doesn't make Link go forward. I prefer the setup I showed you first because it's a little easier to see the bomb in my opinion, but this one works just as well. If you want to really optimize this, you can also do a backwalk HESS, which would be good because you can pull out the bomb even before you target the fence, and it would save you a couple seconds. But the backwalk HESS is really inconsistent, so I prefer just doing a setup here. So now let's get the frame we can roll on. There's 3 frames for this, and they're easily distinguishable by looking at the size and color of the bomb. So here's a generic bomb explosion. It starts flashing slowly, and then it starts flashing a little faster, and then eventually you get to this frame where the bomb is a lot bigger than normal and it's blue. Then the frame after that is even bigger than that and it's red, and the frame after that it starts exploding. That bigger frame that's blue, we call that big blue, and frame after that, the big one that's red, we call it big red. Both of those you can roll on. And also there's a frame before big blue that's like small, normally sized, and it's red, that you can also roll on. I know you really don't see me doing this much in these examples, but before rolling I recommend holding your shield up, because if you hold your shield up you can see a lot more of the bomb, and it's a lot easier to see whether it's big or small. So when you're first starting out and you don't really have too much of a feel for the bomb explosions yet, I highly recommend holding shield before rolling. So now I'm going to talk about which frames you're supposed to hold Z and R on. That's the frame perfect part about this particular HESS. Basically, you roll into the bomb while holding ESS left, and then at one point Link stands up. The frame after that, you're supposed to press ZNR on, and then you're gonna get a HESS with the proper angle. If it's any later than that, it'll sometimes work depending on which frame you rolled on, but it'll give you a bad angle, so you won't be able to get the trick. Here's an example of pressing ZNR too late and having it still work, and Link is just going into the corner and not sliding along the wall. So usually I do my HESSes completely unbuffered, but for this particular one I make an exception. I buffer the ZNR input because it's frame perfect, unlike usual other HESSes. If I'm late on the ZNR input, it'll not let me do the trick. And also, it's a lot harder to get the HESS anyway here, because the game's lagging a lot, which messes with your muscle memory. And also, the camera is shaking up and down randomly all the time, so it's safer to just buffer the ZNR input. So now you're HESSing into the corner with the right angle, and you need to buffer until the third red flash. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because there are actually frames where you don't see the bomb above Link's head. To solve that, you need to memorize how the frames before the third red flash look. So let's actually look at that right now. Here's a bomb explosion, this is the first flash, and the second flash like kinda pulsates, and then you see these two blue frames. There's actually two frames that are completely blue, and they look the exact same. Then after that there's this frame, where it's a little more red, but it's still clearly more blue than red. After that you have this frame, where it's a little brighter, but it's still not completely red. And after that you have this frame, where the bomb is completely red. That's the first red flash. And then you have this frame, where the bomb looks the exact same as the first frame of the third red flash, but it's a frame later, so obviously we call that the second frame. There's setups for collapse skip with the first frame of the third red flash, and also for the second frame of the third red flash. I've made a pastebin with all the different combinations of inputs that make you actually collapse skip, and also the results of messing it up. You can find a link to this pastebin in the description of this video. So now I'm going to explain how to use this thing, and I'm going to use this setup as an example, 200. That 2 stands for the frame of the red flash, 2 stands for the second frame, 1 stands for the first frame, obviously. Now, the second column stands for how far away it is from the frame of the B button, completely overlapping this pillar-like texture on the wall. On that frame you press Z and R, and be sure to release R before jump slashing on the next frame we're going to buffer to, because you can't jump slash while holding your shield up. Now the third column stands for how far away it is from the B button first touching this other pillar-like texture on the wall. Note that it only has to touch the pillar, and it doesn't actually have to like completely cover it, like with the other frame. On this frame you're supposed to press B. I measure it that way because this frame looks different every time you choose a different frame of targeting Zelda. So anyway, on this frame you press B, and then you jump slash, hit the bomb explosion. The bomb explosion hits you into the loading zone, and you skip the entire collapse sequence. Also quite important to note is that all this time I was holding ESS right, all the way until hitting the loading zone in the end. And after I first pressed Z to target Zelda, I didn't release it before hitting the loading zone either. So now let's look at this setup, 1 minus 1 plus 1. Minus 1 means you have to press Z and R 1 frame before the B button completely covers that pillar-like texture. And plus 1 means you have to press B the frame after the frame that the B button first touches the other pillar-like texture. So let's look at it in action right here. As you can see, I'm buffering to 1 frame before this B button covers that pillar. This is the frame where it first touches the pillar, but this is the frame I'm gonna press B on. And the setup works. If you're not quite sure if you have the first red flash or the second red flash, there is a way to check. You just need to buffer to the frame before Link clips in, and look at the color of the bomb, and also look at the color of the bomb of the frame where Link's actually clipping into the corner. If both of those frames are completely blue, you got the first frame of the red flash. If the one before clipping through is blue, but the one when actually clipping through is slightly more red, that means you have the second frame of the third red flash. If it's anything else, the trick won't work. So let's look at some examples here. As you can see, this is a red flash above Link's head. Now I'm gonna pause and release Z and hold ESS right. This is the frame before clipping through, and this is the frame when clipping through. Both of those are blue, so it was the first red flash. Let's look at another example. As you can see here, the bomb is red above Link's head again. So you pause, untarget, hold ESS right, and you see that the frame before clipping through is blue, but the frame when clipping through is slightly more red, so that means this is the second frame of the third red flash. If you're on the frame when first clipping through, and you see that your bomb frame is completely wrong and you can't get the trick at all, there is actually a backup strat to jump slash back and bounce. You need to hold Z and R on the first frame, then one frame later, you need to press B and hold right. And if you do that right, you jump slash right back and bounce, and you can try over. Here's how the trick looks in full speed. So yeah, now I'm just gonna let all the other results play out so you can see proof that they indeed do work and they do get you a collapse skip. One last thing I should mention is that this was initially found with a HESS with right ESS, but I found that it's much harder to see the bomb if you HESS with right ESS, so I found all these setups with left ESS instead. Also, something I should mention is that on emulator you can see the bomb every single frame, so it's a lot easier on emulator. Shoutouts to Skater for finding this trick. Shoutouts to Xwazzle for finding the first setup for this trick. And shoutouts to CG, or Zelda Gamer 98 on Twitch, for helping me understand this trick and figuring out alternative methods of doing stuff. Also shoutouts to Alien Squeaky Toy for helping me a tiny bit as well. All of their Twitch pages will be in the description, as well as my own. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. Good luck learning this, and thanks for watching. See ya.